Welcome everyone. Day 3 of our Azure AI Connect. Thank you everyone for connecting today as well. Give me a moment, please. Today we have with us Dave Renton, build intelligent apps with Microsoft Copilot stack and Azure OpenAI, of course. I'm sorry we had an issue in the previous screen. So I'm bringing Dave on stage. Hello, my friend. Welcome.
Hey, Constantinos, thank you. Good evening for you. So it's good morning on this side of the pond, and thank you for organizing such a great event. It's a pleasure to be here with you and the audience today.
Thank you so much for being with us. Without further ado, the stage is yours, my friend. And if you need anything, please write to the chat. I'll be right with you whenever you need me. Thank you so much.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. So again, welcome everyone to today's session. Again, this is part of the Azure AI Connect 2025 event. And first of all, thank you to the organizers. Thank you, Constantinos, for this opportunity. My name is Dave Rondon. I'm an MVP for Azure and AI. And if you have any questions after the session, by all means, feel free to reach out. And here are some links to, just feel free to reach out in case you have any questions afterwards. So just to give you a heads up on this session, during these couple of minutes that we have, we are gonna share with you just a few of these tools, frameworks that are available for you to, start building out your own AI solutions. So in this case, for this specific session, we're gonna show you how you can utilize Azure AI Foundry along with Azure OpenAI, a few models in there, so that you can build your own custom copilot and infuse AI into your business applications, right? So that's gonna be our particular focus of the day, right? Now that said, it is very important for you to have a baseline and understanding on the skills and tools that are needed in order to, be successful in your AI journey. Therefore, I would like to start with a baseline in terms of skills and tools that we're gonna be looking at during this session, all right? And we're going to start by looking at these concepts in here. As you know, probably this is obvious for you, but probably for new people joining us, just to have a baseline in here. If we talk about a generative AI, basically we're gonna refer to this technology that can create new content like think of text, images, audio, right? This is all generated based on examples that it has learned, right? So basically, it quote generates outputs that mimic human creativity, right? We're going to be looking at Azure OpenAI, right? And if we try to simplify Azure OpenAI, and you can take a look at the Microsoft Docs as well, we can say that Azure OpenAI is basically a Microsoft cloud service that lets you use OpenAI's models like GPT on top of Azure, right? So it's going to make it easier for you to add or include advanced AI features to your applications. and also provide you with these benefits in terms of security and the infrastructure to run your models, right? We're going to be looking also at the retrieval augmented generation patterns, right? And this is very important to understand. Uh, Basically, you can consider this as a method where AI is going to combine two steps, right? So first, it's going to retrieve relevant information from potentially a database or a document store, a knowledge base, if you will, and then it's going to use that information to generate content-rich answers or content, right? We're gonna be also looking at semantic kernel. This is gonna be one of our core tools that we're gonna leverage for this session. Think of semantic kernel as your orchestrator tool, if you will, right? So this is gonna be a framework that is gonna help you integrate your large language model with traditional code. So semantic kernel is going to bridge this gap between the AI's natural language understanding and software logic. If you are coming from the infrastructure approach world, think of semantic kernel as kind of your entry point, kind of your load balancer that is going to help you orchestrate like all the um, uh, client requests to um, have a more organized way to route the requests to one or multiple models to perform tasks, right? And then we're going to utilize Azure AI Foundry, which was formerly Azure AI Studio, right? Um, think of this as a platform, which is basically your go-to ecosystem provided by Microsoft that brings together AI models. It's going to include the tools and best practices to help you quickly build and deploy AI solutions on top of the Azure platform, right? So we're gonna take a look at how we can, put all these pieces together during this session, right? All right. So we have seen kind of the foundational concepts, if you will. So how can we start building intelligent applications, right? What's the path to get there? What are the components that we can utilize, right? And the first step, I will say, is to better understand the tools, the frameworks that are out there so that we can, put all these pieces together. So starting with LLMs, for those who are new to the AI context, right? So we can say that, think of LLMs or large language models as just powerful AI systems that have been trained on enormous amount of data, right? So they can understand and simulate human-like language, right? um, they are basically capable of handling conversations, generating content like text, images, and more, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, um, one of the components that we are going to use is going to be Azure OpenAI, right? As I mentioned earlier, this is a cloud service that is going to let you access to a range of OpenAI's models through a REST API, right? So you're going to see that there are several versions of models like GPT-4, GPT-4o, and so on. Also, we're going to use semantic kernel, which, again, this is going to help you combine your AI models with your custom code, right? So it's going to be your go-to tool, framework in this case, to build smart applications that understand and use natural language effectively. And also, we're going to be looking at Azure AI Search. Think of AI Search as a cloud service built on top of the Azure platform, of course, that goes beyond the basic keyword search, right? So AI search is gonna help you to provide deep insights, full text search, and it's gonna help you filter across different data sources, right? All right. So now, how can we start, building our solution? So from all the solutions out there and components, tools, we're going to be looking for this particular session at the following. So this slide is showing you just a few of the options available for you to build your AI applications, right? If we take a look from the very top to the bottom, we can take a look at orchestrator options in here, like semantic kernel, Autogen. In this case, we're going to use semantic kernel, as before mentioned. There are some reasoning agents. You can take a look at the Azure AI Foundry LLMs available. There's a huge amount of models available through the catalog in AI Foundry. And you can also utilize Azure OpenAI. In terms of planning reflection, we can use the Assistance API, TaskWeaver. We're gonna omit this part for this particular session, but that's something that you can also take a look afterwards. In terms of handling memory, we can utilize Fabric, Redis caching, right? For our demonstration, we're going to be using Cosmos DB and AI Search, right? And in terms of the components or services that we can use to, deploy our solution, we're going to use Azure Kubernetes services. That means that we're going to run our application on top of containers, and this is going to be through AKS. Of course, there are other options like container apps, app services, functions, and so on. And lastly, we're going to integrate Azure API management. This is just, cherry on top of the solution, just to show you how you can handle incoming requests to the OpenAI endpoints, all right? So this is the workflow that we will follow for our solution. I'm going to show you the configuration of the Azure OpenAI models and the AI search service. Basically, in the AI search service, we're going to add our knowledge base, if you will, and create some indexes in there so that we can retrieve the relevant information and then pass it on to enrich the response to the customer. We're going to configure and integrate a sample application with Azure Kubernetes service. That means that we're going to deploy an application that has two components, right? And then we're going to deploy the application on top of the AKS service. We're going to consume AI search, and then we're going to expose the Azure OpenAI access through API management. And we're going to leverage semantic kernel to orchestrate the response to the customer. All right. So let's get into the details on this application. All right. So first of all, the application that we are going to run is the Miyagi application. And we're gonna take a look at two components in here, which are gonna be part of the overall application. So we have the front end interface, if you will, which is this one that you are looking at this slide. And then the second part of the application is going to be a recommendation service. So this is going to be a containerized application, right? So we're going to use two containers in here, one for the front end and then another one for the recommendation service, all right? So in preparation for this session, I have previously prepared the application just to save some time. So the first step for you in here is to run the application locally and then containerize the application. So this application, again, has two components, the user interface and the recommendation service. I have executed both locally, and then I have containerized those in using Docker, right? And then once you have the application running in containers, then you can push them to an Azure Container Registry, right? So once you package your application, in this case, the Miyagi UI and the recommendation service, and then again, you can push it or publish it into an Azure Container Registry, which is kind of your private repo for your container images. And then we integrate those container images into the Azure Kubernetes service. All right. So let me show you step by step like these components. All right. So let me go to the Azure portal in here. And so this is the Azure portal, right? Now we can take a look at the first of all resources that we have explained a few moments ago. All right. So this is our resource group. As you can see, we have the initial setup in here. We have our AI search service. We have the Azure Kubernetes service. We have our Cosmos DB, the Azure OpenAI instance, and the API management, as well as additional resources like the container registry. So if we go to the container registry, you will see in here under the repositories section, we have in here already the user interface and the recommendation service, right? So again, the previous step to this is just to run the app locally and then package those into containers and then push them into the container registry. All right. Now, from there, and let me just quickly show you this, we are using Azure OpenAI. Again, Azure OpenAI is just one of the offers available within the Azure AI services portfolio, right? If you take a look at the broader picture in here, you can see that within Azure AI services, we have multiple components that you can use to build your applications. We have the AI search, computer vision, face API, speech service, language, and so on. Now, for the sake of this session, we're going to be looking at Azure OpenAI and AI search, right? If you want to create a new instance, you can just go to create and then provide the resource group, the instance, pricing tier, and so on. All right. Now, the next step in here is to go to AI Foundry, right? AI Foundry is your go-to platform to work with your Azure OpenAI deployments, along with models that you can find in the catalog in there. So once you deploy the Azure OpenAI instance, you can go to the AI Foundry portal, which is gonna look something like this, right? So this is the initial home, right? You will see a couple of sections in here. Just to summarize really quick in here. First of all, you can take a look at the model catalog. And in here, you can look for a model that best fits your needs, right? So there are different models depending on your use case. You can look for them in here and start the deployment, right? All right. Now, for this particular demonstration, I have previously deployed two models, right, that we are going to use. So let's go back in here. And just to give you more context on the reference architecture. So we're going to be looking at the following. Of course, we're not going to cover like all these components, but just to give you a heads up in here, the main goal of this session is to provide you with a better understanding on how you can, put all these pieces together. So first of all, we're going to containerize our application, which consists of the front end, right? And the recommendation service. Now, in this architecture, you can see that we have additional components for routing. We have a front door as the entry point. We're integrating Entra ID and then API management. For this particular scenario, we're gonna leverage just a direct connection through the API management and then route the request to our front-end UI, which is hosted in our Azure Kubernetes service, right? And we are gonna have in here also the recommendation service on top of AKS, right? Now, behind the scenes, we're gonna run semantic kernel, right, to orchestrate the flow of the request. And then we're gonna make a call to Azure OpenAI, right? In addition to that, we are gonna use AI search to provide a relevant response to the customer, right? Okay, so how is gonna be the workflow of this application? So our focus is gonna be basically to provide a financial recommendation to a customer, right? And just to give you a quick overview on the round trip using semantic kernel, again, think of semantic kernel as your orchestrator, kind of your load balancer, if you will, to orchestrate all the workflow. We are gonna provide the front-end interface to the customer where they can interact with this application, and then they are gonna request a financial recommendation, right? That request is gonna go through semantic kernel, right? And then with semantic kernel, we're gonna orchestrate all the logic, and then we're gonna call or make a request to Azure AI Search and our models, and then provide a more structured and relevant response to the customer, right? So this is the workflow that we will follow, right? So we have our recommendation service up and running. on top of the Azure Kubernetes service. The customer or the client can make a question, which is going to go through semantic kernel. And then from here, we're going to orchestrate the workflow, right? We're going to use an embedding model, and then we're going to get a question vector, which is going to in turn be integrated with AI search, right? And just to show you these components in here, and let's go back to the Azure portal. All right, so we can look for AI search. Okay, so here's our AI search instance. And in here, within AI search, basically you can include in here your knowledge base, if you will. So AI search is gonna create embeddings, and then through the indexes, we are gonna be able to quickly leverage AI search to go and look for the relevant information in your knowledge base, and then enrich the response to the client, right? So for this particular scenario, we just have a small document in here with some of the quote stock recommendations to purchase, right? All right, so just let's move on, and let me just give you a heads up on the setup in here. So as I mentioned earlier, we already have the container images running on AKS. And just to show you this configuration, so this is the Azure Kubernetes service. And then in our cluster, let's go to our workloads in here. Right in here. All right. So we have the recommendation service already running, which is accessible through the API, and we are exposing this through an external IP and the front-end interface as well, right? So both are accessible directly through these IPs. Now, for now, let's go and access our front-end interface in here. All right, so this is the application up and running, all right? Again, this is running on top of AKS. And the main goal of this is to just use this sample of assets that you can invest on, top investments, and so on. So first of all, on the right side in here, we can go to personalize, all right? And in here, we can ask for a financial advisor to get our recommendations, right? So we can select one of these, for example, and then you can select the reasoning engine, right? So here we have a few of them. You can always customize them. I'm going to use GPT-4, for example. And when I hit this personalize button in here, this is going to go through semantic kernel. And then in semantic kernel, this is going to be our orchestrator that is going to go in turn. And let me go back to this slide. So when we hit that button, this is going to go through semantic kernel, which is going to, again, go through this workflow. And then based on the knowledge base that we have in AI search, plus the enrichment with the model, we're going to be able to provide a more accurate response to the customer. Now, before we provide the response in here, we're going to use the completion model, right? And also we're gonna have kind of this quotes memory, if you will. We're gonna persist the response in our Cosmos DB, right? So that if there are similar questions in the future, we can provide a faster response in here. So let's go back to our application and let's go through this. As you can see, this is semantic kernel behind the scenes, and we are reaching the OpenAI endpoints, and then we're gonna see the updates in here shortly. All right. So as you can see, we have the updated recommended options in here in terms of stock, bonds, cash, and home equity, and top investments. All right. Now, let's go back in here to the setup. Gonna go back to the Azure portal first. So as I mentioned earlier, you can deploy your Azure OpenAI instance and then go to AI Foundry, right? Let me just quickly refresh this. All right. Now, in your Foundry portal, you can customize your deployment in here, all right? And just to give you the step-by-step process. So we're gonna go through OpenAI. This is gonna take you to AI Foundry. And first of all, within the chat section, you're gonna be able to provide model instructions and context to the model. So you can, test your model for deployment. And then from here, you can also, just do a quick test before deploying this, all right? Now, as you noticed earlier, let me go back in here. For our deployment, we can get the API keys, the endpoint that we're gonna integrate in semantic kernel, right? But we can also integrate this through API management to have a better management of, the incoming requests for the OpenAI endpoint, all right? Which is what I have done earlier. If you go through API management, all right, so here's the API integration. Let me just show you this configuration really quick. All right, so we have this workflow. So we have in the front end, we have the inbound processing in here, and we are gonna reach out to the HTTPS endpoint from OpenAI, right? So this is the endpoint that we got from the AI Foundry portal, which also can be found in the Azure portal if needed, all right? So this is just, kind of a better approach, if you will, to handle these requests. All right. Now, the final piece for this demonstration is like, how can we actually orchestrate this through semantic kernel, right? And I'm gonna go back in here. So basically, just to recap, when we performed the demonstration, again, this goes through semantic kernel, right? And then we are gonna process the request through AI search and our LLMs, and then provide a context relevant response to the customer. Now, the final piece in here, and let me show you the code in here. So I'm gonna go to VS Code, and I'm gonna give you the access to this repo that you can find. Is publicly accessible. There are different scenarios that you can try on your own. For this specific scenario, you can review the retrieval augmented generation workflow with AI search and semantic kernel, right? Now, this is going to take you through the step-by-step process to get there, but overall, you just need to load the settings, prepare the kernel with memory using AI search, all right? And then, of course, we need to, authenticate, right? So just a very standard processing here. And then we are going to leverage a service principal for accessing here, all right? And the important piece in here is how we can, vectorize and persist embeddings with semantic kernel, right? So here's the specific code for that. And again, if you're new to semantic kernel, you can take a look at the GitHub repo and try these samples, right? All right. Now you can go through the search and retrieve documents using semantic kernel again, and then grounding the functions with the memory, all right? So I guess we can share this repo in the chat as well, but I'm gonna give you a few more seconds for you to go through this GitHub repo. Again, you can find it in the Azure samples / Miyagi in here. All right. So again, there are multiple scenarios that you can try. This is just a few examples. Just to recap, we reviewed how you can leverage Azure OpenAI with AI Foundry and services like AI Search and AKS to deploy your solution, right? Again, this is just one of simple approach to deploy your solution. Of course, this is not the only or unique solution. There are other components that you can utilize to build your AI solutions, all right? I think we are on time for the session, so I want to see if there are some questions. Let's see if there are some questions in the chat. But again, thank you for joining us today for this event. I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions. And again, thank you to the organizers for such a great organization of the event.
Great, amazing presentation. Thank you, Dave, for this very deep technical explanation. We are going to definitely watch it again. I have to say to our viewers, you can of course connect to YouTube and see the recordings. So in case you miss something or you want to recheck what Dave explained, you can go to YouTube and see the session. It's https ai-athens.gr, -athens.gr. Again, thank you so much, Dave, for being here with us. We are so grateful that you were able to come, and we hope we will see you in another event.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Konstantinos.
Thank you, Dave. Have a great one. Bye bye.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Great. Uh, Dave was able to conclude quite fast. So we're going to switch to our usual video until the next speaker comes to us. So let me see what is up next. So what we have is Azure AI shaping an accessible world. Sounds very interesting with PUs. I will try to ping him and see if he can be a little bit earlier here. So please stay tuned and we will be right back. Thank you so much. All right, we are back. Day 3 Azure AI Connect 2025. Our next speaker is here with us. We're going to perform a little bit of an experiment regarding the screen sharing. I believe it will work, but if it doesn't, we will find a way. A very interesting theme, Azure AI shaping an accessible world. I'm very curious to see what Piyush has to say about it. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Piyush on the screen. Hello, my friend.
Hey, hey,
Thank you so much for being
Constantinos.
here with us.
Yes, thank you
We're
for
so
inviting.
grateful to have you, and your presentation seems very interesting. I can't wait to see it. Um, do you want to try to share your screen?
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay.
Okay, screen. So,
Okay, it's on the stage. Good.
are you able to see my
Yes,
main PPT?
yes, we can see your presentation.
And I guess there is no like echo or something because I get a
No, no,
warning that okay,
no, nothing.
okay,
If whatever is that you need from me, please write in the chat, because I may be, from room to room, watching other speakers as well. I will have my mind on you, but if it's something urgent, please write on the chat. Okay?
okay.
Thank
We
you.
can start.
So, yes, without further ado, Piyush is taking the stage. I'm going to be on the background. Thank you very much, my friend. The stage is
Yes,
yours.
thank you. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to my session. Azure AI is shaping an accessible world. Essentially, I want to talk about how great Azure AI is in enabling accessibility. I also realized later on that shaping is also in the title of this event and in my title as well. But let's set the context first. What do I mean by accessibility? A lot of times, when we think of this word, we think of it as the physical world, the build infrastructure. uh, you see these, for example, the small cuts you have on the sidewalk and between the roads, so that you can transition from one to another in a smooth manner. uh, in Netherlands, where I am speaking now, you have a lot of these tactical pavings, especially on the bus stops and the train stations, to guide people to stand at the right place. People who have low visibility or any sort of vision issues. Now, that's important, but if you think about the amount of time we spend on anything with a screen like a mobile phone or a laptop, then the digital accessibility also is very important. And that's the subject of my presentation. If I have to define digital accessibility in very simple terms, it would be essentially having the right color contrast on your website so that you can always see what the letters are, or having a good description of an alt text of an image, so that if someone is using any sort of screen reading software, they can understand what's happening in the image. In a more official definition, digital accessibility means designing your digital product and services in such a way that people with disabilities can access them, and also they have similar experience as with all other users. This second part of having similar experience, that's very important, because in sometimes you can design things to be accessible, but the experience is not same. We will also come back to this in the later slides. But for now, what are the type of disabilities I want to talk about? In this, we are looking at five broad categories. Please note that there are, of course, other categories, and within each category, there is like a lot of variations. There's a lot of, it is sort of an scale. So the first one, for example, vision, which includes everyone with, let's say, complete blindness, but also having some sort of color blindness or anything in between. So it's not like a one size fits all. That's what I try to say here. The second category is cognitive. So that means people with ADHD, people with on the autism spectrum, or sometimes you also have people with sensory issues if it's too bright, that sort of thing. Then we have speech. Speech is essentially people who make speech which is not understandable by other humans or systems. That would be speech disability. And then we have auditory, which is essentially hearing impairment. And here also you have a scale, someone who cannot hear anything to somebody who can hear like only like 10% or 20% hearing loss. And the last one is having a motor or muscular disability. So that means people who are using wheelchairs or using any sort of clutches to help with walking, right? So now these are the different type of disabilities, but then we still have to answer the question on why it matters, why it's important. Another misconception or a common association that we links with this accessibility is we always think about people who are with permanent disability issues. So someone who cannot completely see or someone who needs always a wheelchair to walk around. And generally that's not like a really large category. It's not like if you go out and you are seeing a lot of people working with wheelchairs or a lot of people working with walking sticks, right? So the association is like, oh, maybe there are some people, but it's not really a common thing. Why should I be worried about? I still have a lot of users to focus on. However, in the type of disabilities or categories, you also have a temporary and a situational disability. So temporary, I means if you have some sort of injury or you had an accident and then you cannot walk for a particular duration. Sometimes you have your ear stuffed and then you cannot hear for a couple of days. Then you have situational category where because of the situation you have certain disabilities. For example, if you are driving your car, you cannot, or at least you shouldn't read your phone or check anything on your phone. If you are in a crowded place and the video quality is, let's say the audio in the video is not that clear, you probably want to turn on the captions to be able to read what's happening in the video. You cannot just put the max volume because there are other people around you as well. So if you combine all these three categories, it's a bit of a staggering number, which was also surprising for me when I was doing research on this topic. Essentially, we are talking about approximately 20% of the whole population. And that means one in a five user has experienced one of these categories one or another time. Okay, so that's like really a big set of users. Huh? So my argument or story is that making things accessible, making your services accessible, it's not a charity, it's not a something like a moral thing you have to do. It is a good business case. You should do it because it's actually good for your business. You can get a lot more users from this category, and often it's neglected, especially maybe not in the really big organizations, but in small to medium organizations it is negligible, so it can also give you that edge in the market. Now, the focus of today's talk is AI and Azure AI, but there is also an accessibility word before AI, right? It's accessibility sort of started almost as internet went a bit more mainstream. People started thinking about, okay, how can we make things more accessible for all this type and fix all this type of accessibility issues. So let's look at what was the journey before AI essentially. Then we have this organization called WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So they are sort of, as the name suggests itself, they set all the standards and all the rules on how you can basically make your content more accessible. And their rules are based on basically a lot of market research, a lot of research with people, sort of a, let's say, a institution-based research to decide these rules. What we saw earlier, the color context on the website, or what sort of page hierarchy you should follow, whether you should have keyboard navigations, and if yes, then how you can do that so that people can use your website with keyboards itself. These sort of all the rules are defined by these guys. and they have different categories, so A level, AA plus level, and so on. So it's like, yeah, you can be partially accessible, or to really fully accessible. Some of the technologies on accessibility also are, for example, closed captioning. So closed captioning is essentially, it gives you a description of what's happening in the video. So it's not just subtitles, but it also tells you, for example, music is playing or something like that. That's also covered in closed captioning. That's also an accessible technology, so that people can actually read it if they have either hearing impairment. And the other thing you'll realize with a lot of accessible technologies is they are designed with a particular disability in mind, but they are very good for general accessibility. And what I mean by that is they are not only used by people with disabilities, but they are used by everyone else as well. So if you just think about in YouTube, how many times we watch a video with closed captioning, even though let's say that person may or may not have any type of disability, that sort of, you can realize how helpful this technology is. You can also relate this to the physical infrastructure example that we saw earlier, of having that curve cuts, so that you can transition from sidewalk to the road. It's not like that's only being used by people on wheelchair. That's used by people with strollers, or carrying babies. Sometimes you transition with your bike from one side to another if you are carrying a suitcase. So the message there is, if you design something with accessibility in mind, it can also be a very good case for just general accessibility, and then it can help a lot more people than only the set that you were targeting. Some other accessible technologies are, for example, a screen reader. That's a great tool where essentially it reads what's happening on your screen, and you can basically have some sort of navigation to focus on certain areas than another. In some sense, this relies on making content already accessible. So let's say if you are having a web page, if you haven't followed a proper heading structure, so where your main heading and your subheadings and subheadings, that type of structure, then a screen reader cannot really help users. Then it will keep on reading everything in a sort of same manner. So it essentially, a screen reader depends a lot on content already being accessible, but at the same time it is a very helpful technology, because if there is no other option, then it helps quite a lot. The other thing is, which has also helped quite a lot in last few years, the voice assistants. So that means your smart speakers, or even Siri and other things that you are on phone, which you can just talk. Because sometimes speaking, or in fact a lot of times, speaking is much easier than typing. If you have difficulty with motion and with keyboard typing, and if you have to check for every small thing, like what's the weather, how can I go from point A to point B, what's the review for a particular restaurant, that sort of thing, that can be a quite time consuming and energy consuming task for people with certain disabilities. But if you can just talk to and ask a device for that, then that makes the whole experience much more smoother and much more simpler. So that sort of voice assistant technologies also helps quite a lot. This is just some examples. There are a lot more assistive technologies which are there for quite some time now. Now let's look at what's the role of AI in all this is. So I was looking for a word on how can I describe what's the best thing AI has done for technology in general, and I think it's fairly represented by democratization of technology. So what I mean by that is, what AI has enabled is making technology in a way, let's say, easy to use or simple to use. In many cases, if you want to build like a, what we saw earlier, a captioning type of website where it can translate automatically your a video and generate some sort of captions, without AI that would be a quite cumbersome and manual task. But AI can automate a large part of that, and the ease of usage come from In many cases, you just need to sort of integrate an API or do some simple things. It's not like you have to build a lot of things from ground up to be able to access that technology. In many cases, it's also very easy to scale because most of these AI services are offered by cloud providers. So scalability is also not an issue. Some of the other things, if you look in the similar examples category, let's think about the image recognition. So earlier we saw for a website, it's a good practice, or if you want to be accessible, you should provide all text, which is like the description of the image. That's also comes from one of the guidelines from WCAG. You should provide that. Now, let's say if you have a website where a lot of images getting uploaded, it's nearly impossible to manually check each image and then provide that text. But you can use some sort of AI image recognition to automatically generate a description for that. And there will be cases where, let's say, it's not 100% accurate, but you can easily get 90-95% accuracy, and the small 5% you can have some sort of manual intervention to correct that. So something which was quite complicated and cumbersome and time consuming in a world without AI can be much more simpler and easy to do with AI. Similarly, the speech recognition software, which can, they are now so mature that they can even recognize who the person is. So in those voice assistants we talked about, if they can also recognize to whom they are talking, that experience can be made much more personalized. There can be a lot of details which can already be filled or already be known. Think of if you want to interact with a chatbot and the chatbot already identified who you are, then a lot of details becomes much more simpler to fill in a way. So the speech recognition software also has a uh, much more important role in making things accessible. Essentially, the whole text to speech and speech to text, that's quite important assistive technologies, and AI really enables this part. Uh, if you think of let's say 5, 7, 10 years back, the AI voices were it would be quite robotic. There is no like it can read something, but it would feel like a machine is just reading what's there. There's no emotion behind it. There is no uh, there's not like right poses. So it's you can still read it, but it's not really accessible. But with AI text to speech, you can have all sorts of variations. You can have all sorts of voice modulations done to essentially give a picture that it's almost as simple as another human talking, and that's the gap that AI is filling. Now let's look at the impact of Azure AI on all this. Uh, from my side, I'm not, by the way, working for Microsoft or anything like that, but I do use a lot of Microsoft products, and I do believe they are making the best use of their AI services in their products, and they really sort of strive to make the services more and more accessible. So one such example is Microsoft Teams. In Teams, you have couple of features like blur background, which makes sure that sort of the cognitive load on people is very less, especially if you have some sort of sensory issues. But then the other great feature which actually I use on a day-to basis is the live caption and translation option. So essentially I'm working in Netherlands. In the office where I work, English is like the primary language, but a number of my colleagues are, let's say, sometimes it's difficult for them to explain a complicated process or a complicated requirement in English. They are more comfortable speaking in Dutch. But in the calls, I turn on the translation as well as the caption options, and I do the NL to English translation live. I as such I understand 80-90% of Dutch anyway, but the small things that I miss, I can see it in the captions. I can also go back to it. So that's, and it's like scarily accurate all the time. So how quickly it sort of translates that and give you the feedback. Yeah, I really like that feature. So then it's working on language accessibility. It's working for people who don't have any disabilities, but also for people who have disabilities, who have hearing issues. Then instead of uh, hearing and listening, you can just read. It also reduces your cognitive load. So sometimes if you are in a call for, I don't know, quite a few hours or a bigger part of your day, you don't want to again have a headphone in your ear. You can just want to read something. You can go back to that text again later on. So that sort of functionality Microsoft Team provides. And behind the scene, it uses the Azure AI translation service, Azure AI speech to text service, uh, and essentially that's how it enables this facility. Similarly, what you see in the co-pilots, I think most of the co-pilots have the describe image service. So what we talked earlier about the image recognition, but they also have the voice chat functionality. And I think that should be essentially a norm for any chatbot, is having an ability to be able to talk to that. Uh, and that is speech to text technology that really helps you, because indeed, yeah, you might have a complex problem, and if you start writing it, it takes much longer. But if you can just speak, it's much simpler and much faster. And most of these technologies are designed with general accessibility in mind, so it's not only helping people with disabilities but everyone else as well. The other thing that Copilot has, that summarized text, that's also a very helpful functionality. If you have a large page to read or a lot of information, you don't have time or you don't want to go through all that stress of reading such a large document, then you can just use the summarized text functionality. Similarly, in Edge also there are certain features. Personally, I'm not. I don't know if that's like enough for someone to start using Edge. I don't use that per se, but I think the similar functionalities are present in other browsers as well. So you have the read aloud function that, yeah, if you are traveling or something and you don't want to uh, read the whole page but just want to listen it, then read aloud helps a lot. You also have the live captions and the describe images that we already saw. These are just some examples, but I think a combination of these services are also present in other services, like in PowerPoint also you have the captions and translation service. Um, I think in the Windows also you have similar services present, right? So that's uh, yeah, I can truly say that they are making the best use of their Azure AI to basically enable these services. Now let's look at a couple of examples of how we can basically use these services to make uh, experience for our users better and more accessible. One such example I want to talk about is using text to speech technology, right? So what I have is I have a lot of news apps. I follow a lot of different websites for reading the news. But then there are many cases where reading it is more cumbersome. Like listening to it would be much more easier option. And I don't say that I have come across news websites which provide this type of facility, but I also see a lot of them do not have this by default. I think it should be available by default. So what I want to do is basically whatever the text you have from your news app, you can use Azure Translator and Azure Speech Service to do a direct translation of it, or listen back in the same language you want. So you don't have to do the translation, but you can have the ability to listen it in the original language. But if you also want to listen it in your native language, then you can use translator and then use the speech service. Essentially, if you look at the combination of this, it supports more than 100 languages already. Yeah. So uh, almost all popular but also less popular or very languages I never have heard, they are also supported by this. And within each language you have a set of already predefined voice names. So essentially that would be like a soft voice or a male voice, a female voice, a more clearer voice. All those sort of options are available. At least every language has at least two, but most of them have a lot more than two options available. So you can select any one of those for your speech option, and then it comes back to your microphone. I have a small demo as well, so at least I will try to show that. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, then well, please let me know via chat. But essentially, I have a Spring Boot service. This service is using, let me show my Azure resources. Yeah, so I have a speech service resource and a translator resource. In the translator, I'll show you one small example for, so yeah, so for you get the same functionality in the API as well. So essentially you have like a detect mode, but you can also already defined. And essentially what I wanted to show is with the response, you get a score as well. So a score essentially represents if the translator, how much confidence the translator has. And one means it has complete confidence. Why it's important, maybe you can use this parameter as well in your APIs or in your app service to determine if you should be using translator or not. However, most of the, if you think about the news articles, they are written properly with some sort of editorial check behind them. So I think in almost all cases you will get a score of 1 or maybe 0.99, something like that, but generally it will be quite accurate. Okay, so my app service is already up and running. In my Postman, I have basically from today's famous Dutch news app, I have a small snippet, and let's try to listen it in the NL. So that's the Dutch language.
Ze heeft een Grammy, staat op nummer 1 in de Amerikaanse hitlijsten en werkt samen met wereldsterren. Ondanks haar succes voelt de Nederlandse producer Rosalila dat haar carrière nog in de kinderschoenen staat. Ik droom van een soloproductie in de hitlijsten.
So it's a bit I don't know if you guys could hear it or not, but essentially it translated this whole, it didn't translate, but it just read out this whole thing in a very natural Dutch voice. And the logic in the app is a bit like it's tried to detect the language of this text, and if it's the language same as the input language, then it doesn't use the translator, it directly goes to the speech. And if it's a different, then it use the translator as well. I think it's my logs as well, there are some information like what was the detected language and if translation is required or not. Then I also enabled support for English language for the same thing. So if I enable English,
She has a Grammy, is number 1 in the American charts, and works with world stars. Despite her success, Dutch producer Rosalila feels that her career is still in its infancy. I dream of a solo production in the charts.
yeah. So if you, this is also showing here what was the translated text, but it's essentially Dutch to English, and then it's speaking out. And if I hope you could hear the voice, but essentially from the voice it's a very natural sounding voice. So that's like the beauty of AI, that it's not a robotic voice. You can listen to it for a much longer period and don't feel like getting annoyed or something. But then the other service that Azure speech service offers is custom voices. So what I mean by custom voices me essentially is you can have your own voice or a voice someone from your company or your brand voice, let's say. I don't know if people have like a favorite news anchor from whom they would like to listen to the news, but let's say you can sort of do a customization and have something which is unique to your company or your brand, and that gives a much more personalized feeling. So you don't have to use like a standard voice from the voice gallery of Azure, but you can bring your own as well. That's also, I think, a very nice feature to provide a sort of a customization and a unique case to a particular company. There can be a lot more of these type of cases. So for example, you can think of speech to text and make sure that all the chatbots can a person can talk to a chatbot. You can use translator there as well to maybe enable a functionality where they can talk in any language they want, but to your operator or the backend person supporting that, it would come in a certain language. So these sort of things. Now the goal of this demo is to, well, not to show that it's very simple, but at the same time to sort of show you that there are a lot more possibilities. And with Azure AI, it's also not really that complicated. So in this case, for example, the once you have these resources, you have your keys and endpoint, and you can essentially very easily call them by an API, make an API call, and start using it in your products. Yeah. So this is like one of the examples which I wanted to show. Now let's move on.
Good afternoon,
Luckily, we
everyone.
don't need
So
this,
this is
so we could do
essentially the
a.
recorded demo.
Let me pause that. Yeah, this was a, as it says, a backup if the demo doesn't work. Okay, now in all this, there is a role of government as well, right? In form of making regulations and that sort of stuff. So I am from Netherlands, essentially in EU, and EU has this EU Accessibility Act 2025, which is what it does is it makes a sort of uniform rules all across EU. Before this, basically each country has their own rules for your products, your websites, your documents, whatever. And sometimes those rules were slightly different from each other. So for a company working across different countries in EU, it was quite challenging. So that's one part, that they have made it uniform across. So they have essentially made a consistent set of rules that you need to follow. They have also increased, or let's say brought a lot more product and services in the umbrella of these regulations. In past, it was maybe only for example, government websites or anything which is being offered as a public service, that sort of thing. But now a lot more things will be in this scope. So that's also have a like increased scope. And it also is sort of compliance by law. So what that means is, if you are not compatible, if you're not accessible, then you can be fined. And and it sort of the fine increases exponentially if you remain uncompliant. So that has a motivation of its own, that can yeah, basically forces organizations to address the accessibility issues. Now it's all good so far, but in my opinion, what regulation can achieve is, it can make things more accessible, that's true. But whether those users will have the same experience as people without disabilities, that is something that regulation cannot really do, right? So you can make things more accessible. You can, for example, going back to that image we saw with a text description, the regulations can be that for all images you must provide a text description. But what is the quality of that text description, whether it's actually helpful or not, whether it's describing what's happening in the image or not, that's something regulation cannot do. That is something that we as a company, or that particular app or product or whatever, that needs to strive for. So that's where sort of the motivation, and let's say the thinking of accessibility as a business case comes into play, right? A lot of times we use regulation as a sort of a checklist. So essentially you design your whole product, and then you can run it through some sort of accessibility checker, and then you identify all the issues that you have to be remain compliant, and you just tick them one by one by one. Some of that also means the experience breaks every now and then. But yeah, let's say you have 200 issues and you are already compliant by 180, or you solve 180, then you've already done a very good job. But then we are not thinking of the experience that users will have. We are just thinking of it using as a checklist, get a lot of ticks done, and that's about it. So that's where I think regulation will not help, but thinking of accessibility as a something that business should strive for as a good business case, that will help. Of course, there are challenges as well. So one of the few things I want to talk about is having some sort of inherent bias. Now, in AI systems, especially the ones using any sort of language models, any sort of Gen AI, do have some inherent bias. That comes a bit from the training data that they use or not used. Uh, think of, let's say, speech recognition software, which is only trained on, for example, American English or British English, and then there is a lot of other accents and a lot of other dialects, then it will not be able to recognize. So if you build a system, speech recognition using a model which is only trained on certain type of categories, then you are essentially making the experience a lot more difficult for other users. Also for people with disabilities, it can be quite frustrating. So that's something that we do need to take into account. Then the second point is, and this is a bit, let me give a bit more context about this. Essentially, when we design, yeah, when we are coding, when we're building things, a lot of times we start to place ourselves in the shoes of the users. So that's like we start taking their perspective. Okay, for example, if someone has vision issues, how they will be able to read my text, how they will be able to access my applications, and let me start thinking from that side. Now, that can be quite dangerous. Like it is present in all the things. It doesn't matter whether you are doing things for accessibility or not, but in others, you have more options, essentially, because sometimes indeed your experience also is, you are also a user, so you can maybe relate with the experience, but in this case you cannot. Earlier we talked about having one in a five person with any sort of accessibility issues. That ratio does not translates to workforce within the companies as well, huh? So we talked about you shouldn't be doing the perspective taking, but you should be thinking about perspective giving. And how do you do that? Well, start getting people with certain sort of disability issues into your workforce, but you can also contact a lot of institutions and which work with these type of people. But the other thing, more fundamental thing you can do is, if you have feedback channels on your website, on your app, whatever, make sure that those feedback channels are also accessible, so that if someone wants to give you a particular feedback and has some sort of disability issues, they are also able to do that. It's not that the feedback form is somewhere buried deep in your app or your web, and then you can only, for example, type there. You can, if you that means, yeah, if someone has difficulty with keyboard navigation, they probably can never give that feedback. So making your feedback channels accessible is also an important step that you can take in perspective taking. I can talk about one example from my side. When I moved to Netherlands almost 8 or 9 years back, whenever I used to call to the GP, which is like the general practitioner doctor that you have, for a number of first few times, there was an option to select English on the automated voicing system, but it would always say that part also in Dutch. So it's like press one for this and press two for this, but that's all in Dutch. So I could never recognize which option is to actually go to English. I will always press basically one, two, three, four, five, six, and generally it's at one of those it connects to the person and they will transfer me. Luckily, that's been resolved, but that's like an example of, if you don't make your feedback channel accessible, well, you're not going to get those feedbacks as well. The last one is the success criteria. This is a maybe slightly controversial, but essentially, we talked about five type of disabilities, and within each of them, let's say there are different categories. But you can never have a product which is accessible for everyone. That's simply not possible. There's like so many variations that there will be no experience, no user experience in that. You have accessibility needs which sort of competes with each other. So for example, let's say if you have a mobile game and you have like a captioning option, whatever user says, you generate captions in different colors, because you think that will help for a particular type of disabilities. But then on the other side, that can really be detrimental for people with cognitive disabilities. You already have a small screen where a lot of space is taken by these text, so then the cognitive overload is really high, and people with sensory issues can have difficulty in accessing that particular game. So this type of things happens where a one let's say disability group competes with another group in terms of accessibility. Now, what to do about this? So the best is to actually know which are your audience, what sort of users you are targeting, and how do you define, okay, what sort of accessibility goals you have, and how you sort of also give maybe customized or personalized options. So don't have something by default, but have it as an option which users can turn on and off, that sort of things. So this really knowing your user, identifying their needs, and then working from that helps. Okay, that's actually it from my side. I want to summarize with some key takeaways at the end. Starting with, again, I cannot emphasize this more, but have accessibility as part of your design process itself. And it comes back to that message of not thinking of this as a charity, not thinking of this as a moral issues, but it is something a good business case. And then if you want to do that, then have it part of your design process itself. It's like something inbuilt, instead of first just designing your product and then thinking about, okay, for accessibility, what are the 5 things I need to do as a checkbox. Yeah, again, coming inherently built in. This also means that uh, having it as part of your application itself. So the example we saw where, let's say, a news app has like a function to listen to the news instead of reading it. Maybe that capability can also be offered by a screen reader software. A screen reader can just go and read everything, but then the experience that you have, that's not in your control. A screen reader cannot provide different sort of variations. You cannot modulate that. You cannot set speed on it, so listen faster or slower. And that depends completely on how the content is designed. So a screen reader will not be able to make a content inaccessible content accessible. But when you build it in your app itself, you can have all sorts of logics placed to make it more accessible. So that's what I mean by inherently built in. And the last, design for general accessibility. What I mean by that is, uh, so you start with some sort of disabilities, but if you design for general accessibility, it's always very helpful. You can think of the Copilot voice function. it's it's probably being used by 80 to 90% of the users. So when you design with general accessibility, that helps a lot more than what you can think of. I think during the research I found out the text messages capability that was designed for people with disabilities in mind, but everyone essentially use it. So that's a very good use case for general accessibility. Yeah. Well, with this, I would like to say thank you, all of you, for your attention. My name is Piyush. I didn't introduce myself in the start, but let's do that at the end. I'm working as a chapter lead at this Dutch bank, ABN AMRO. This is something which I'm passionate about. So yeah, if you want to have a chat about it, or just discuss these sort of things, yeah, please feel free to connect on my LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Piyush. That was a great presentation, and I believe it's something that not everyone is talking about. So your approach was quite interesting. I will definitely re-watch this, and it's going to be available, of course, in our YouTube channel. Big thanks to Piyush for this amazing presentation. I don't see any questions for now, so I think uh, uh, you are free to go, my friend. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. We're
Thanks a
so
lot.
grateful.
Yes. Yeah. Have a nice day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right. I don't see the next speaker. So we're going to have a small break. And when our next speaker is available, we will continue our event. Azure AI Connect 2025. We have a staggering amount of around 40 speakers. Thank you guys for watching our video stream. Remember, you can find all the presentations in our website and in the YouTube channel. I'm posting the link here so you can watch later the recordings in case you want to go back in time and see other presentations or videos as well. In the meantime, I'm starting a video, and when we are ready, we will be right back. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Azure AI Connect 2025, day 3 of this amazing collection of speakers and events. Uh, we continue as usual. Now we have our next speaker already with us. We have Tashar Bhatti. If I am pronouncing the name wrong, he will correct me. And we have the session titled Unleash the Power, Crafting Agentic AI.NET Apps with Autogen Framework. Now, here is something that I'm very excited to see, Autogen Framework. I have tried so many times to engage with Autogen, but always something happens and I leave it for the next day. And now the day has come for Tashwar to explain everything to us, and I'm so grateful. Let me bring Tashwar on the stage. Hello, my friend.
Hello,
Welcome.
Kalispera, I think. Right?
Kalispera, Kalispera.
So yeah, you
Thank
were
you,
right. My name is Taz Warbati. Yeah, that's
Tashwar,
correct.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We are so grateful that you can deliver this session. Um, Let me ask you if you don't mind. Where are you
Sure.
calling from, Tashwar?
I'm actually calling from Istanbul. We're neighbors.
Istanbul. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, so your name is Turkish, is that correct?
No, my name is not Turkish actually. My
Yeah, it's
wife
not
is
Turkish.
Turkish,
Okay, okay,
but
okay.
I'm
Oh,
not
your
Turkish.
wife.
Yeah,
Yeah. Istanbul, such a great city.
exactly.
We will plan a trip very soon with my wife. We've been to Izmir in last summer, and we plan to visit Istanbul hopefully this year.
Sure. Let me know, and then we could maybe have a drink or something.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for being here with us. So Autogen, right? Crafting Agentic AI.NET with Autogen.
Correct.
How long have you been engaged with AI.NET?
I actually started in 2020. No, 2000 and yeah, 20. I
Yeah,
was actually before that I was in security,
all right.
and then I was doing some AI too. It was intriguing, and then like 2020 is actually I took the Coursera course from Anu
Yeah,
Ng, like Andrew Ang, and I
yeah,
learned about all about machine learning and all that stuff, and then basically got myself into it.
amazing, amazing. So you do have the experience, you do have the know-how, and you also have a part of security in you. That's amazing.
Sure.
Well, I'm going to shut up now, and the stage is yours. Let me bring your screen also
Sure.
upstage. Anything you need, please write me on the private chat,
Sure.
and I will be there. Yeah, you're driving. Thank you very much,
Thank
Tajgar,
you.
my friends.
Yeah. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about Autogen. Actually, it's a framework developed by Microsoft for building agents. And let's quickly take a look at the agenda that we have for today. I'm going to go through a simple of Azure AI first. Like, I mean, what does Azure actually offer us, and what are the agentic frameworks that possibly one could use? And what is Autogen? What is an agent? And we'll dig down deep into the Autogen framework, and I'll do some demos of Autogen too at the same time. How to build a simple one and a more complicated agent framework. So before we get started, so this is Azure AI, basically. Azure AI, what does it contain? It's the best in class, basically, if I may say, for foundation model. We have the Azure AI services. We have the Azure machine learning, and we also have the responsible AI tooling, which you don't see everywhere else too, sort of thing. So it's the foundation of it, like basically how you could use these things is through Azure AI Studio. Going to the next slide. So what do we have like basically for Azure AI? We have the model catalog. You have a lot of models to choose from. You have the foundation models over there too. Model as a service, the GPU model family, the open source ones too. You could use open source ones. It's not just OpenAI. You could use DeepSeek too, actually, DeepSeek R1. There's the small language models too. So the small language model 5.3 and all these other ones that Microsoft has helped develop too. And then below that, you got the Azure AI services, you got the Azure OpenAI services, Azure AI search, the AI speech, the language, the translator, the vision, and all that. And on the machine learning, you have the prompt flow, you have the model tuning and model training. So you could train all your models over there. Next slide. So again, as you might know already, we are best buddies with OpenAI. So I really want to emphasize actually over here, the real principle of Microsoft is actually really to empower every person and organization on the planet to achieve more and using AI. So below it, you got the Azure OpenAI services. It's OpenAI, but it has its own flavor of, I would say, basically protection of it, responsibility of it, so that you cannot ask it questions that are like that are not appropriate, basically. So there's a protection because we are serving enterprise level customers. So we want to make sure that we are enterprise friendly too. So we have the GPU GPT-4, we have the Turbo, we have the 4.0, which I'll use the 4.0 Mini actually for later on in the demo. We got the GPT 3.5 Turbo, and for imaging we have DALL-E and Whisper for translation and transcripts. So when we talk about agentic property, what is agentic property that we talk about? So OpenAI has a way of talking about agentic properties. There is basically something called low agentices. So basically what it means by low agentices is email filtering. We have content generation, music recommendation. These are most like MLs, basically. You know about if you like this music, you might actually like this music. If you like this movie, you might potentially like this other movie. So basic customer chatbot that you see. And then on the right-hand side, you see high agenticness. So what are those? Is basically the self-driving cars, the AI-powered cybersecurity defense, so automatically defending you, the adaptive learning platform, and the financial trading bots. So these are more like independent sort of thing and figuring out what to do with it. And when we look at the benefits of agents, sort of like you could infuse more capability of AI processing within the flow of what you have. So you could think of a flow of like some program that you have, but you could actually inject into it some kind of AI into it to actually maximize your journey of the true value of AI. You could drive new goals. You could adapt your native applications to actually reshape the knowledge of your work. So you could do a lot more with it. So going forward, so what is the reasoning evolution that we have seen for AI, basically agents specifically? The very first one that you have seen is like when ChatGPT came out was when you ask a question on a topic, what is the highest building in the world? You get a response basically from the knowledge that it trained from the neural networks and everything else from the LLM. It could actually generate you a answer sort of thing based on the question you asked. But we are moving very fast. We are going to more of an agentic reasoning where it's more like not just one way of reasoning stuff, but more into a way of like asking a question more in the real world. Let's say you ask us a question on a topic and the agent actually goes out and researches it, finds a first draft, and it could pass it to some other agent to actually make a revision of it, and actually to pass it to some other agent to make a holistic view of like, is this security capable or is it violating any copyrights? You could do all of that stuff, and then it would actually pass it back to you to say that here, I've summarized all of these stuff. These are the things that we have got. And at the end of the day, this is more a holistic view, rather than just answering you a simple question of like a prompt, as in like, hey, you know what? What's the tallest? How tall is Eiffel Tower or something? This is more like doing a real. Think of it as a team of people that you could potentially have to actually go and like research something, refine it, which is very normal process of human too. When you have a team of people, they build something, they refine it, they reiterate it, and then they finally come up with a certain solution. So we also realize that actually there's no one size fit all, basically. There are many different architectures. If you think about microservices, it's pretty much the same. Agentic architectures have different patterns too. So not every microservices fits into everything, and nor does agentic framework fits into everything too. So you have to think about design factors. What are the design factors? What are the behavioral needs that I need? What are the orchestration difference that may lead you to different framework and architecture? So you have to consider all of these things before you go into any of the agentic frameworks. Now, you see over here, basically on the left-hand side, you see like, here are all the ones that Microsoft developed. There's LangChain also too, which is developed open source, which is very popular too at the same time. We got Semantic Kernel, which is Microsoft built. We have AutoDev and Autogen too. So these are some of them you might not have even heard about, Dylan and all these other ones, basically. And today, actually, I remember there was another API from OpenAI, basically. So again, like, I mean, Autodev, if you talk about Autodev, it's actually a foundation research paper inspired for the creation of Copilot. So GitHub Copilot is actually based on the Autodev, and there's all these other frameworks that are developed. So there's also libraries like React. So React over here and Meta GPT, they all have like instrumental defining inter-agent collaborations. So they're actually able to define agents and all of this stuff behind it. But today we're going to talk about Autogen. So before we talk about Autogen, we have to define what is an agent, basically. What is an agent? That let us define the things. So if you think about it, an agent actually has a couple of things that actually you talk about. It has to have a persona. So there's a persona for the agent that it determines the personality of the agent. And there is models that you potentially use. You could point it to a LLM of some sort, or SLM if you want to. Any LLM, OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, or to Olama or anything else. There's databases that you could point to. You could say that, hey, you know what? Now I have a repository of all these information, of customer information that I want from a database or a knowledge graph. Here's people who are connected to other customers. And you could actually add some functionality to it. So you could actually add some API calls to it, functions or tools that you could actually add to it, or interpretations of some things. So these are some of the external things that you potentially add to increase the functionality of it. So today I'll show you also in the demo how to actually do the functions too. So going forward, what is Autogen? There's a couple of versions of it. The latest version is 0.4. So Autogen is actually a framework developed by Microsoft. It is event-driven. It has asynchronous by design, async messages you send to each other. So if you know about the actor framework, actually underneath it is actually the actor framework. It's scalable and distributed. Again, if you know about the actor framework, you know it's distributed. It supports conversational programming. It has runtime that handles message delivery. It has a low-level API, which is the core, which is the using almost like an actor model to actually talk to the API if you need low-level accessibility. And there's also a high-level one, high-level API doing an agent chat. Today, I won't go through the core one. I'll go through the agent chat because I want people to understand it. Maybe in the future, you could listen to one of the talks that I'll be doing, going deep down into the core. It has built-in and community extensions. So you could build your own extension, and you could have community extensions that you could potentially use too. So if you look at the framework, this is a diagram of the framework that you could see. So you get the core API. This is the foundation. The foundation layer offering scalability, event-driven, actor framework to create agentic workflows. Now on top of it, you got the agentic chat API. So this is the built on top of the core, and is offered task-driven sort of thing. You could add tasks to it. It's a high-level framework that you build on top of it. This framework is actually the agent chat. It's a replacement of version 0.2. So you might see a lot of 0.2 out there too, in like if you Google it and stuff, or Bing it. You might find a lot of Autogen 0.2 code base sort of thing. But today we're going to go to 0.4. So I'll show you what the differences are and stuff. On the left, actually, you see the bench. Bench is actually a way for you to actually agents to compare the performance across tasks and environments. So you could actually benchmark it. And you got the Autogen Studio, which is sort of a low code, no code sort of thing that you could actually launch and actually build these agents too. I personally prefer Visual Studio Code because I'm a developer, and I like to show it like that. But the Studio actually offers you quite a bit too. It's quite easy to use. And then extensions, you could build your own extensions, and your apps are basically over here. I won't be covering the Agentic one today. Maybe in the future I'll cover it too. So here is how we define an agent. So if you're gonna, this is Python code. So basically what you first do is actually you need to find where the model is. What model are you going to plan to use? So here you can see that I'm using the Azure OpenAI chat completion client. I'm telling it where's the deployment. I've deployed it in Azure right now, my own Azure subscription, using a GPT-4o Mini and it's just the demo one that I've labeled for the deployment. I have the Azure endpoint, so the endpoint, which is a secret. I have the model that I wanted to use, the GPT-4. The model is different than deployment. The deployment, I could call it ABC or whatever that I want to do. The model is the one that I really want to point to, which is the model that I plan to use, what is the API version, and the API key, which is a secret. Now, how do you define an agent within Autogen? Basically, here's a simple one called assistant agent. It's a general agent that I'm going to be trying, and I need to point it to what is the model client, which is, I defined it up here, and a description of the agent. You're a helpful assistant agent, and the system messages. If you have tried any LLMs, you would know the system messages is a way that actually define what the model is. You are a helpful assistant that can answer questions and provide information. So this is the way you define a simple agent. Once you've defined this, then you could actually do something like this. You could do agent.runStream. So you could define a task to it. How tall is the tallest building in the world? So you could ask it something like this, which is a normal chat GPT kind of thing too. You could ask it a question, but here you're using agents. And it might tell you that actually, you know what, as of October 23rd, 2023, it's basically the tallest building is Burj Khalifa in Dubai, basically. And it stands at whatever height. So it has that knowledge within the GPT-4 mini, so it's able to give me that information. Now, if I ask it for a real-time weather sort of thing, then it's going to tell me, hey, I'm not able to tell you the weather of what is the temperature in Athens, Greece right now. So it would suggest me certain things because the LLM does not have any knowledge of how to retrieve weather, which is, it changes all the time. It's been trained using certain information, but it's able to answer me like, hey, you know what, you might want to use a search engine to look for that information. But using an agent, I want to be able to actually define a function or two so they can grab the weather. So let's take a look at adding a function sort of thing. So you see on top over here, I'm just defining a weather async function in Python, saying get weather. And I could pass in a city and it will return me a string. What I'm returning is the weather in the city is 42 degrees and sunny. So this is by default. If I want to actually use this, I could use it. This is a very simple function. But if I really want to use an API for it, here you can see that I'm using get API weather. This is another function that I could potentially use. Okay, same thing, I pass in the city, returns a string. And in here, I'm calling the Python library, which actually is creating a client. And then the client is going to call get city. It's going to get me the weather. Then I could also return the weather if the city is weather temperature, degrees in whether it's sunny or not. So this is hard-coded, which it actually can return every time. And this is really getting the API. And in here, the agent, remember how we defined it? I'll show you a demo later on too. The weather agent, I could say that, okay, get me the API of the weather. I'm using this one rather than this one. Then actually every time that I ask it the question, it would be able to tell me the correct answer of what it is, the weather of Athens, Greece right now. For example, here, I actually did this. What is the weather in Istanbul? And it actually goes, you can see the function is calling get API weather, and it executes it and gets the weather in Istanbul 16 degrees and partly cloudy. So again, the response that I get back from the agent is the weather in Istanbul 16 degrees Celsius and partly cloudy. You could see that it actually changes the capital letters and all that stuff too when it actually gets back to it. So this is great. Like, I mean, I'm able to add a function to it, and I'm able to actually query the LLM directly, and is able to go out and actually grab the information that I want to and actually return that with an API. So that's great that I have this extra functionality to it. But what about if I want to actually do more collaboration, more with other ones? So there are other conservable agents that you could actually have agent customization, calling one agent to the other agent. You could actually have multiple agents to it. So how do I actually do these flexible conversation? You could have joint chat, you could have hierarchical chat too. So a simple one of actually doing it is actually called a round robin group chat. So basically, every agent is going to go through the summary of what has been described and go through every one of them. So if you think about a round robin, could be a blog writing, for example. You could have one agent that generates a blog on a certain topic. So let's say cooking Greek food. So it could be creating an agent of cooking Greek food, creating a recipe, and you could create another agent for actually looking at if that recipe has like allergies or something like that. And you could translate the recipes into different languages and all that stuff. and then it could actually summarize it by a summary agent or something. And then you always have to have a termination for the agent. So you need to say that, okay, when does the round robin actually start? So you can actually say that terminate is the text that I'm looking for when it terminates. So this is the simple one that actually goes through it. There are also different kinds of round robins that you could potentially use. You could actually use a human in the loop. So you could say that, okay, I'm running a round robin. There's agent 1, agent 2, agent 3, but the termination is going to be something that I'm going to be providing from the user. So when it actually gets the information, it processes through to the user, and the user or the application could say that not good enough, or I need something more, and it could pass back the information and continue on with the stuff until I'm happy with what it is. So this is a way of human in the loop, which Autogen actually provides you to at the same time. There's also the other one, request user input. So it might be that actually you have to use the user proxy agent over here. They are doing something, the agents are doing something, but it actually needs certain help from the user. So it can actually come back to the application or the user to say that, hey, you know what? I need something more from you. Maybe it's the weather. What's the temperature? 16 degrees. You could provide it, and it could run through it again more, sort of thing. So it's waiting for an input from a user, basically, human in the loop. So there are certain ways to help agent. So it's not automatic. Everything is automatic. So maybe you could think of it as a car too. So it's waiting for, there's a red light, but there's a green light. You can't see it. It's waiting for a person to actually really like put on the gas or something like that to actually let it know that it's safe to go or something. Or it sees that there's too much traffic, there's a traffic accident, what to do next sort of thing. So it might ask for user input. So that's another way to do it. So now we're going to move on to demo, which is the interesting part. Let's see. Let me know if you, I should be able to share this on the screen. Move my Visual Studio over maybe. There we are. So let me start with this one first. So let me zoom in a bit. So to begin with, you would have to create a virtual environment in Python. Clear this up. You would have to create a virtual environment. You would activate the virtual environment. And to install Autogen, you would actually use pip to install it. If you're into Node.js and stuff, you'll understand that you could use Node to install extra libraries. Pip is actually the NuGet for .NET people. So basically, you could install the libraries for it. So here, how you install it, you install Agent Chat. And then you have the option of extensions. Basically, you want to install the Azure extension or the OpenAI extension. I'm using the Azure OpenAI extension over here. So let's go down. From here, you can see that I'm importing the assistant agent. I'm also importing the console and the Azure OpenAI client. I'm importing the async IO. Here, I'm loading the .environment, which actually reads the environment file that I have over here, the OS, and the Python header. So here, it actually loads up the environment, what I have for the environment, the access keys. So I have Azure Endpoint, Azure API, which I actually have over here, which I'm going to be loading in. So now, as I showed earlier in the demo, you have the model client. The Azure OpenAI Cloud Client requires what is the deployment. I've showed earlier that GPT-4 Mini Autogen demo that I'm using for my deployment in Azure, and the Azure Endpoint that I need to use, the model that I'm planning to use, and the preview and all that stuff, and the API key. So here, I'm going to define a simple function. I've showed this earlier too. This is the weather. City is 22 degrees and sunny. Rather than saying 42 degrees, I'm saying 22 degrees. So you can return the weather is 22 degrees. And in here, I'm going to be, actually, let me just jump to the simple one. It's the same. So I've defined the agent. The agent is general agent, and it's using the model client, helpful agent, what you're going to be doing. And it's going to be running that, it's going to be running a simple question and answer sort of. So I'm going to ask it how tall is the tallest building in the world, and I'm going to ask it what is the current weather in Athens, Greece. So these are the two ones. So I've defined the model, what is the agent that's going to be the model that I'm going to be using, the agent that I plan to use, a helpful assistant agent. It doesn't do anything, no functions yet. So ignore the function. I'll go through the function next thing. So I'm going to ask it the weather. First, I'm going to ask it what the tallest building is. So it should be able to answer me because the LLM has the information. But when I ask it weather, it should not be able to answer me. Let me just run this. So here you can see. So the tallest building in the world is Burj Khalifa in Dubai, blah, blah, blah. What is the current weather in Greece? And I'm not able to get the real weather. So that's what it's not able to do. So now if you jump to the app, basically, where I've defined the weather, get weather, which always returns 22 degrees. And I'm going to use the get weather. Here, I created the assistant agent again. And I'm using the model client, your helpful agent. And it's able to use a reflection tool, and it's also able to use a stream. So I'm going to say, what is the weather in, let's choose another city, Istanbul, or let's say Paris. Okay. What is the weather in Paris? So let's run this. So again, you can see the weather in Paris, 22 degrees. So it's always going to say it's 22 degrees. Remember that we actually said that the agent's going to be using get weather, which always returns the same thing. Now I'm going to change it to API weather, which if you look at the API weather, it's the same code, Python client. It creates a client. It uses the library, Python library. And then it's able to say that, okay, get me which city that you wanted for the weather. And the weather is whatever weather. It's going to return me a string, basically. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to run this. Let's run this and see what's the weather in Paris. So you can see over here, it's calling the city Paris and calling the weather agent. The weather in Paris, 8 degrees and light rain. So again, it's able to actually answer me that it's 8 degrees and in Paris. Not so nice, actually. So maybe you could change it to something else. To Athens, Greece. I'm going to save that. And let's see what's the weather in Athens, Greece. Probably similar to Istanbul. So it's 19 degrees. Not too bad. Partly cloudy. So here I'm showing you how to actually include a function into it that you could call an external API to actually provide you with extra functionality into your agent. Now let's go through another example, which I'm going to do is multiple agent, for example. So here I'm using, again, the Azure OpenAI. You could use the OpenAI chat completion tool. It's up to you. And I'm creating pretty much the same thing, the model client, what I'm using, the ChatGPT 4o mini. And what I'm creating over here is multiple agents because I want it to be round robin and telling me such things. So the first agent I'm going to say is planner agent because it's going to be planning trips for me that I'm going to be doing. So you're a helpful assistant plan. You're a helpful assistant that can suggest a travel plan for a user based on their request. So here, remember you have to define really clear things to the agents to actually answer you properly. Then I have a local agent. The local agent suggests local activities for places to visit. So it's going to suggest me authentic and interesting local activities or places to visit for a user utilizing context provided from the information. Okay. And then we also have a language agent. So we might want to go somewhere that actually requires you to have a certain language that you need to know, certain language. So again, here's a language agent that actually provides me your helpful agent that can review travel plans, provide feedback on important critical trips, and how to address languages and communication challenges for a given destination. If the plan already includes language tips, you can mention the plan is satisfactory with rationale. So again, the system match is very, very defined. There's also a hotel agent. Again, you're a helpful agent that suggests hotels in a family-friendly area and easy to commute with public transportation for a family of 4 travel plan, basically. Based on the travel plan, you should be able to provide some hotels that are really good for you. The summary is basically where it grabs all of this information and it's going to send you back this information to say that, okay, I've gone through all of this stuff. Now here's the summary of like, what are the agents basically telling me? So again, you can see that helpful assistant agent that is able to tell me, take all the suggestions and advise me for the other agents that provided detailed final travel plan. You must ensure that the final travel plan is integrated and complete. Your final response must be complete plan. When the plan is complete and all the prescriptions and all the perspective and integrated, you can respond with terminate. Remember how I said that you have to terminate the round robin? There needs to be a way to terminate it. So here you can see that here's the summary report. It's going to grab the hotel, the language, and all these other travel plans, and I'm going to put it into an array. Travel plan, local agent, language agent, hotel agent, travel summary plan. And the termination condition is termination, which is terminate, which the summary agent is going to give me terminate. So here, I'm just going to say, okay, plan me a 4-day trip to Doha, Qatar. Let's see how this works. So it's going to plan a 4-day trip to Doha, Qatar. So it's going to tell me the first of all, it's going to say, let's see, it's going to plan me the plan, day 1, day 2, day 3. So that looks pretty good. Arriving, exploring, morning, what should you do? Afternoon, what should you do? Day 2, morning, visit the village. And adventure, the desert experience, morning, evening, day for leisure, and departure, basically. Let's go down. So now it's going to be the local agent based on what it actually received, because it's going through a round robin. You arrive on the international airport, hotel, blah, 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 Marriott, and suggesting all the local things that you could potentially do. And if you scroll down more, the language agent is going to tell me, okay, what are the languages that could do? Language basic. The Arabic is the official language of Qatar. Well, you could speak English over there. So it tells you how to say hello and all that. So less frequent places is going to suggest all of that stuff. So you can see each agent actually doing its best to actually answer some of the things. Overall, looks satisfied. The hotel agent is going to tell me like, okay, how to say hi, basic greetings, dining experience, shopping, the souk, scarification, menus, culturals, final notes. Didn't quite travel, give me the information that I want for hotels, but maybe the travel summary might be able to. So you arrive at the airport, this is the summary basically. Check into your hotel, so it includes the hotel, Ritz-Carlton, scroll through Corniche, visit the Museum of Islamic Arts, souk, visit the souk, day 2, heritage, the cultural village, Pearl of Qatar, National Museum. So again, it gives me all of that. It's round robin. Every one of them is telling me some of these things. And the summary basically goes through it. Transportation, use taxi or ride sharing. It gave me the Arabic phrases of how to say hello and all that stuff. Cultural sensitivity, when taking pictures or religious type, always ask for permission. There you go. So it terminates. So now you can see that multiple agents are actually working with each other to actually make sure you finally get a response that you want to do. So the last demo that I wanted to show is actually great. Like, I mean, I want to explore how to actually, I don't want to use Azure OpenAI. I want to use some other agents that are running on my local machine. How do I actually use the local machine one? So I actually have a demo for that one too. So let me just pull up my local one. So here, rather than using the Azure OpenAI chat client, let me just zoom in. That's clear. Rather than using the OpenAI chat client, I'm using LM Studio. I don't know how many people have used the LM Studio, but you could actually run it. So here you could see that I'm using LM Studio with MetaLlama. So I've actually loaded LM Studio with it, pointing to localhost, port 1234, and I have to provide model information. So vision, I'm going to say mode, JSON output is going to say false, family is unknown, function calling is true. Now, the only thing that I find for this one is basically, when I tried to run it, the function actually didn't quite work. So somehow it was not able to get the function properly. So I'm going to try to run it one more time, but first I need to actually start the LM Studio. So let me launch LM Studio. So if anybody has seen LM Studio looks something like this, that you could actually run your own model, local server. So I'm going to select the model you can run. So you can see there's a lot of models you can run. You can run Phi 3, you can run Mistral, you can run all those stuff. So here I'm going to run the Llama 3. So it's going to load up. So it's running on my local machine. If I want to try things out on my local machine first, to actually try it, what I've seen so far is like some of the local ones runs okay. It's all up to your experimental. But usually the ones 04, Mini, and all those stuff run better than the local ones. You might want to explore Olama and all these other ones too. So right now, is the server started? Yeah, server started. let's try to run our code, local one. So here I'm using the local one, as you could see, pointing to local. Hopefully it will work. Let's run this. So what is the weather in Istanbul? It's going to use the weather agent. So you can see it's a lot more slower too. And I'll show you LM Studio afterwards. So again, see, it's not using the 22 degrees or 42 degrees and sunny. It's trying to get back something from the agent. It's kind of slow. See, as my knowledge cut off in real time, humid, blah, blah, blah. That's my experience. So if I look at the LM Studio, you could see that it's actually returning this. It's hitting over there and trying to get the weather using the LM Llama and trying to stream all those responses back to me. So that's one way to actually look at how you could actually potentially use a local LLM in with the Autogen to actually play around with it. So now let me jump back to my slides. So here we're done with the demo. And I wanted to share some resources. I'll share these slides with you and you will be posted. So all the GitHub, you could go to autogen.jh, aks.ms. The Discord, there's a blog. There's all these examples. There's Autogen for .NET too. It's not as advanced as the Python one, but eventually we'll get there. There's videos, there's Studio, there's design patterns that you could potentially use. There's notebooks that you could potentially use. There's all these links would be shared with you. There's a web server agent that could serve to the web. And that's pretty much it from my side. I don't see any questions so far. Let's see.
Great. Amazing. No, I cannot see any sessions as well.
Yep.
Thank you
Do
so
you
much.
have any questions? How about you?
I could have many questions,
Hmm.
but I'm taking care of the whole event.
True.
So I will connect with you, and I want to rewatch the stream in my uh, be
Spare
quiet
time.
and yes, and watch it because it is a very interesting aspect for me, the autogen. As I told you earlier, I always wanted to engage, and now your session is a gold mine for me.
No problem.
So yeah, I'm going to watch it again. I will connect with you on LinkedIn. Do you have the GitHub link available so I can post it in our global
So
chat?
for Autogen, actually, you could go to. Let me just share it. Oh, thank you,
Uh,
Ahmed.
yes. Thank you.
So
Thank you,
I'll put
Ahmed.
it in the comments. Let's see. I'll put it in the private chat, actually. Here is linked microsoft.github.io/autogen. So
Great.
actually, if you go
Yeah.
over to share the screen, so if you go over to this URL, microsoft.com.github.io/autogen says stable, you should see the autogen. So you're using 0.49, which is 0.2 was the older version, but you could click on get started and actually has a tutorial of how to get started with autogen agent chat, the installation, quick start, everything is there.
I went up to the point to get the UI running, and that's it. So now
You
I
don't
can
need the
just.
UI. I mean, you could
Yeah, I
actually
know, I
use,
know, I
if you
know.
use VS Code, I think if you start with VS Codes, get the core concepts understanding,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
go to the UI, might be like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. Because I think the UI is really made for like low code, no code. It kind
yeah.
of hides the stuff from you. So I
True.
think going with the with how it actually worked with the agent chat first, getting the idea of it, oh, okay, this is how it works in Visual Studio, then try the UI might be a better option.
Yeah. Now let me ask you something.
Sure.
As you may have seen already, there is the new agent service in AI Foundry.
Mhm.
Um, do you think there is any comparison between these two tools, or we are talking about different apples and oranges, for example? Can you can you I don't know speak about this? Can you tell us anything about that?
So you mean
Uh,
like AI Foundry is actually think of it as a repository of all the models that you could
yeah,
potentially put into it.
they have I don't know if you know that they have created the new AI agent service, and it's very easy to deploy now agents. Of course, it is in preview. Maybe you have not seen it, so you may watch it, and
Sure.
you can come to a
I,
conclusion later on that.
I haven't seen it, but I have tried Copilot Studio, the
Yeah,
Copilot from Microsoft sort of thing.
yeah,
Now, Copilot Studio, again, it's a low code, no code. It could do a
yeah,
lot of stuff for you, but it's not like I'm the kind of person who likes to build its own Lego, right? So I
yeah.
like
Me
to
too.
put my Lego as the way. But
Me
when
too.
you use low code, no code, yeah, it could achieve quite a bit. But
Yeah,
there are certain things that it just you can't do it easy.
true,
But when you
true.
have the real thing to actually grab onto it and like, hey, I actually want to put this piece rather than
Yeah,
this other piece, and then
yeah,
it actually makes these kinds of frameworks, the agentic frameworks, actually makes a lot more sense. So
yeah, yeah.
if you have
Agree.
coding experience, strongly suggest you just go with the code.
Yeah, I do. And the AI agent service, uh, while it has the user interface in Foundry, it's actually accessible through its own SDK. It uses the inference approach on AI, and yeah, I think I will try your session and try to recreate the whole thing and
Sure,
come back to you in LinkedIn, and we can
sure,
discuss it in
sure,
more detail probably.
sure. No problem. You're welcome.
Wow, thank you so much, Tasgar. That was amazing. We are so grateful you could be with us today. Hopefully, we will see you in another event of ours. And if I come to Istanbul, of course, I will ping you.
Sure, ping me
Uh,
when you're in Istanbul or when you're in Greece, you're in Athens, right?
yeah, yeah, if you
Sure,
come, by all
yeah,
means, please ping
sure,
me. We can go out
sure,
for a coffee or something. Yeah.
sure. Sounds good.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care.
Have a great one. Well, great. What an amazing presentation by Tasgar. We wanted to see Agentic AI. We wanted to learn more about especially Autogen. Yeah, Autogen is a very it's very intriguing for me because uh, as I said earlier, I was always curious about the tool, and now we have a good approach by Tashar, so I will be able to watch it again, and everyone can watch it again, of course, in our YouTube channel. I want to thank you, everyone. I know that you are not able to be live on every stream, but watching the analytics on YouTube, I can see that we have quite the viewers. So that's very encouraging. Thank you all. We will add some video for while we're waiting for our next speaker. So please stay tuned, stay connected. We will be right back with our next speaker. Thank you all. Well, we thought that Shujit would not be here with us. I was not able to find him, but yeah, he's here. And he's going to deliver one of the most important for me sessions. It is about GitHub Copilot and how GitHub Copilot private extensions transform the coding experience. One of the most interesting themes around coding and themes that are very, how can I say that, important for developers. You know, coding is transforming, and Sijut is here to tell us all about it. Let me add him to the stage. Hello, hello, my friend. Are you able
Hey,
to hear us?
yes, yes, I can. I can hear you.
Can
Am I
you,
audible?
uh, yes, can you add a little bit volume to your mic?
Yeah, is it better?
Better. Well,
Wow.
sorry for the mix-up. We could not find you on LinkedIn to validate whether you're coming or not. But
Um,
yeah, you're here.
i- in fact, I was logged into the another StreamYard and waiting for the my turn.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, no problem.
no problem. You're here now, and we're happy
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see you.
yeah,
So
sure.
without further ado, you can share your screen, and I will add it to the platform.
Yeah,
And
sure,
you're driving. I'm removing myself.
sure.
Whenever you're ready, you can start.
I'm trying to share the screen, but it
Okay.
is hang. It's not sharing. It's not sharing. It's not allowing me to share the entire screen. Try to 1 second. Yeah. Yes.
Find it? Great.
Okay.
Here you are.
Yep.
Thank you. Great. The stage is yours, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Um. Hi. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever is watching it live or the recording from different locations. Uh, Myself, Sujit Kumar. I'm here to talk about GitHub Copilot private extension, how it can be transforming your day-to-day work. So whoever is wanted to having a connect with me regarding different topics related to AI, you can scan this QR code and be connected with me. So before getting into my session, I just want to talk about, I had this session a couple of weeks before in another event. There, in general, how this AI is transforming our day-to-day life. I just asked the audience, what do you think uh, if AI is going to help you in this passion? So an example, you are getting a personalized medicine for all using AI. So some members get interested on that. Specifically that day I was sick, so I am specifically interested for that kind of AI mechanism to be placed. Then I asked, okay, can we have an algorithm as website, something like instead of finding out match in different way, find out the vibes of the people and do a matching, soulmates matching. So a lot of youngsters were interested on it. Then some contradictory statement, replace human politicians with the autonomous AI system, which will going to happen behind the scene. So there were some people who supporting that. and some of them like talking about you can even choose your children how they would look like. So this kind of just funny questions has been asked related to AI. But the red color which I marked, what that is what really got more attention, and I got more votes also. So people want AI work more or AI work overtime, and they want to work less time. So uh, to take this point alone, how do we really able to achieve this? Is it possible to achieve? So that is where that subject what we are talking about, GitHub Copilot coming into an an important factor. So what we are going to talk about, that's why this GitHub Copilot and what is basically GitHub Copilot. These all are probably a lot of you guys already knows it, but the people who are still not using it or not even used it, just want to give a glimpse about that first some no, 5-10 minutes, then we can go to the real topic of extension, how this extension is helping us to do the functionality what we are really looking for. So having said that, GitHub Copilot, it's what is GitHub Copilot? It's basically an assistant. It's not a replacement for you. In fact, I just want to clearly mention to you that that this is not a replacement. It is just an assistant. You should still know the basic stuffs or the basic framework, basic functionality, or basic what is the structure of the program. So it will help you to accelerate your work. Say an example, if you're writing a function in your code, it will work along with you. It's like ghost coding you, what you're saying. Even it will suggest to you this is the code which you can really use for. There are a lot of options to use GitHub, how GitHub Copilot can be used. You guys can look back and some of the references, and it is like a very quick journey. You can easily understand how it can be utilized. Now GitHub Copilot is available for free also with for limited message usage, but it's been a lot of companies, a lot of organizations start using and giving this GitHub Copilot for um, their employees to make the productivity far better. So um, what all things it can help you? So it is providing a chat facility, just like if you are using OpenAI or ChatGPT or Grok or Cloudy, any of that chat AI system, whatever model you are using, according to that, you are getting some kind of response, right? Maybe a lot of you guys might be using it for the for the coding practice or something else also. Generally we are using for now almost in all functionality, all knowledge, even sending an email also, we are actually utilizing it, right? So it's been using for almost all purpose now. So the difference between using an AI system as a isolated or standalone and versus GitHub is this: GitHub is basically integrated with your IDE. If you are using Visual Studio Code or Visual Studio or any other Java, Intellex or any IDE you use, there are some IDEs which supports that. You can have an extension for it, this GitHub Copilot, and start that GitHub Copilot part of your IDE. If I am taking an example directly, like if I am using Visual Studio Code, I can directly go to Visual Studio Code and start GitHub Copilot as a chat. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, you will have an option like this. You can open a chat, you can open Copilot edits and start utilizing, or you can ask questions to it and it will answer for you. So this is how you can use it, GitHub Copilot. And the difference here is when you are working with any specific code, it will be work along with that. You can define the context while you are asking any question to GitHub Copilot. The difference is in ChatGPT, or maybe if you are using Grok or any Cloudy, what you wanted to, you might need to put this code over there. And moreover, there's some organization has constraints about your code should not be exposed to other AI systems. So but GitHub Copilot is actually working on the context or the terminal where we are using. So what you can do is you can define different um, I mean, if you want to define, say that, okay, I wanted to see an answer or related to this specific file context. So eh, just send some sample code, some vanilla code. I don't know what is this code doing. For example, if I want to understand what is this code doing, is I can just ask GitHub Copilot to explain this for me, right? So instead of, I can put some extensions here, but before that, and without putting anything, I'm just keeping, okay, program.cs, please explain to me. So explain to me. So it just go through this specific code and understand the context of it and start explaining to me this is what it is doing. So people who don't know or not using GitHub Copilot, this is the way it is working. So this is Visual Studio Code. Similarly, you have same thing. You can get it in, if you're using Visual Studio as an option, you can use that also, and that will give you the same same concept what you are really using. Like suppose if you're having any Visual Studio used as part of your day-to-day work, so you can actually use the same concept of just like talk to the system with the context of the code, and it will give you the related answers based on that context. So this is what high level in what you GitHub Copilot is been um, integrated with the IDE. So you can get and utilize this GitHub Copilot specifically for get an overview the entire solution, and a specific, for example, I want a selected code or one specific class or one specific function. If I want to get explanation about that, I can get it. And one of the most interesting stuff is for a lot of people are using, including us, as is we are using it very aggressively. One is creating unit test case. So nowadays automation is an important part of any code what we are developing. So if you wanted to generate a unit test case, you can even use GitHub Copilot, and it will give you very nice support. In fact, that's compared to all coding experience, unit test is the one which is giving more accurate as per my personal experience. Then if you wanted to fix or a bug, even you can use a fixing option also, it's available. And it will suggest almost see, by the way, these all suggestions is coming from the vast code base of GitHub. So we know that GitHub is Microsoft's code base where there since a long time there are a lot of code being checked in that to that. So the training has been done on top of that code base. So it is you utilizing that knowledge base to support help you to give the right and best approach and all those things. So it will give you some best practices also. So if you can select and ask for the what is the best practice or what's the best optimized way of writing the same code, that way also you can utilize it. And of course you can ask generic, suppose you are an architect or designer or some persons, you can even ask general questions like that using GitHub Copilot. By the way, while you are using GitHub Copilot, I'm going back to my ID again. You have still option to select different models. You can use GPT 4.0 or one mini. You have that option to select, and if you purchase some of the model, that also way can be adapted to here. So it's not like always you have to use a specific model based on the likeness of some people like Cloudy, so they can use the Cloudy also. So it supports almost a lot of models. See here, these many models it's supporting, like Sonnet. This is a preview, but you can, if you wanted to use Gemini, you can use those models. Okay, so this is what basically how GitHub Copilot people are using or for different purposes. Now this is the response coming from overall this specific slide from Microsoft. This is they did a study about GitHub Copilot, what is the response from different customers. So this is what different people are saying, that we can we are getting help to write fast code completion. It's like a higher priority we are getting from GitHub Copilot, and a lot of people are really happy with this, to finish their job very quickly with GitHub Copilot as an assistant. Now I can show you guys how, if you don't um, implemented GitHub Copilot for your case, so how do you do that? What do you need to do? If you are using Visual Studio Code, open it, go to extension, select the extension which you want. Here it's like GitHub Copilot, and GitHub Copilot chat will be part of your um, processing, and you can install both of these. After that, it will be asking for you to sign in. Usually what happened is you should have GitHub access. If sorry So you should have GitHub access. uh, you just logged in. When we are logging from Visual Studio, it will take you to the GitHub site to for you to sign in, and whatever account you are using, use that one. You are into for usage of that purpose. So here I signed in with Sujit on web. This is my personal account. Similarly, I have an organization account. So how many ever account you don't have, you have it, it's up to you which one you want to use for the different purpose of day-to-day work. So just log in with that, and you will be getting um, the chat facility using that options, right? So that is how we have to install and set up GitHub Copilot. Similarly, now if you wanted to use it for suppose you wanted to use it for a code completion, so you can see how easily you can do it. You can actually fix the code, test code, explain the code. So just select different options are there, inline editing also there, and similarly you can even uh, just do a chat option also. So you can do directly uh, ask questions in the editor itself. So an example, if I wanted to do something here, I can do the editor itself. You can ask any questions based on that. So um, at so you can ask any question. Basically, that is what we wanted to consider about this. For example, okay, let me take this one and say that okay, rewrite this code to support best practice. So it will give you options what all it can do with that, and you can accept that changes. So it's doing some kind of changes. It's adding Swagger also for that. Ideally your web API should have a Swagger, so it's adding that. I'm not aligned to specific language now. So generally whatever language you are using, as part of that language, it will give you the suggestions, and you can accept, and you can actually start using it. So once you accept it, it will be the code will be changed. This is inline code changing. Similarly, you can plan work with in the specific chat window and refer the either enter project or the terminal what all you opened, or you can actually even specific to code also. For example, I want this terminal to be used. So if I says terminal means this area, in this area what has been opened, that is been considered as terminal. So it will look at those files. Suppose some functions you refer to another classes and another files. So all those things, you can consider here while you are looking for a code changes. And if you wanted to really cover up and their project itself, you can select workplace workspace. So it will actually consider all your entire project as a context, and with keeping that context, it will talk to you, or it will communicate to you what actually changes is been expected. By the way, I repeat, it is not blindly believe everything what is coming out. You have to validate what is coming out of this models, right? Then accept it based on that. Okay, with that said, so here I'm just putting some function, I want to reverse a string. It's very common, very common functions. Probably it's a college project function. So this is what we will use. If you want to do that way, you just write the comment. It will help you to finish that work for you. So it is similarly, yeah. If you're asking, okay, change that string in differently, so different functions. So you can accept it or you can reject based on your need. So this is one way. While we are working with code, you can utilize it. And suppose you don't know some language or some framework, some functionality, or some modules, you wanted to learn it with the help of GitHub Copilot. This is very important nowadays. Learning became micro learning. Some day with the changes are happening day by day. So technology is very quick change, so catching up everything is very difficult. So in case, assume that you have a friend who will tell you what is the best way of learning a specific framework, and with some samples, with some mechanism of what will help you to accelerate your learning process. So GitHub is that way. Also you can use GitHub Copilot. So here it's asking, how to do learning of specific language. So I'm asking Visual Studio codes and what are the best extension for working with Rust. So this is something like Rust is some new technology that very less people knows it. So if you wanted to know, can ask. It is giving an step-by-step process for you what you need to do to learn Rust. So um, similarly, so this is if you are asking like what extension this Rust code, this is a very simple question, so that it will give you directly answer. So it's actually a helper for you to learn day-to-day work. Okay, so far we were talking about how this GitHub Copilot will be helping you to uh, do a day-to-day job, and how it is going to help you to learn some um, new technology, new framework. So that is what you are seeing now. Now, people who is using it, they are using, as I mentioned, for that. I don't have I'm not putting any demo for unit test cases and other functionality what we discussed earlier. We are going to stop it here and coming to our main major topic. Now, we understand we using GitHub Copilot, we are able to um, get code support, and you are able to get some training. But these all are general data information is coming from the existing models which is been built. So usually when we were working for an organization, how do we do that? We will have a separate framework or separate code base, or we will have separate practices for our day-to-day work, right? And we might connect with sometimes it's a DevOps or GitHub itself, not Copilot. I'm talking GitHub itself. Then or you will have ITSM tool, probably some of the tools which is creating your issues, cases, and you might have coding practice, and you might have some documentation which is utilized for your organization to review while you are writing code. So there are constraints it's been built. It's not like every organization, every developers develop in same manner, right? So that these rules will defined. If you are working in X company or XYZ company, ABC company, you have some specific list of uh, gu- guardrails or some gateways for you to evaluate your code, review your code while you're writing your code, the framework you need to follow. So if we utilize GitHub Copilot as a just a general tool, of course it's helping you to do the work easily and it is helping to learn things. But what I want is I want to constrain my need specific to my organization also. So for that purpose, you can extend GitHub Copilot. So if you are already having GitHub Copilot subscription, what you can do is you can extend your um, GitHub Copilot models to use a specific additional activities too. So there are multiple ways to extend. One way is using skill set extension. Another way is like make it as a agent. So whatever you are seeing in a blue color, that is skill set. That is nothing like simply calling an API. So when I say an API call, just an example, I'm doing coding, day-to-day coding. So I need some sample test data. So for making a sample test data, I assume that I created an API. So uh, once I call that API, I will get a sample data. But I don't want to make a separate application altogether for it, and don't want to go some other systems to get those information. Instead, already I'm using Visual Studio Code, uh, but then as part of that day-to-day coding, processing, code writing, I just want to utilize these APIs also get me that information whatever required. Similarly, I'm getting bored. I want to get some funny things. So I don't want to go out of my Visual Studio. I just want to do it from there. Or I finish my work. I want to check in my code, um, and or I want to push a message to my colleague. So we had already an IDE for us to do a day-to-day job along with an assistant, right? So with that assistant itself, can we extend that assistant? That is where GitHub Copilot apps coming in picture. So if you wanted to do using skill set extension, what you can do is, suppose you are asking a question here, you can see it it has an option. We can define a dynamic prompt crafting also, whatever. Suppose in from here, if I send some information, it can actually utilize that specific extension what I created. So for example, here you can see a different extension which has already deployed by Microsoft and some third-party companies. So if you want to ask specific questions related to Azure, for example, you have an Azure account, you want to know what is the status of my VM. So I have a VM. I'm just asking, um, can you tell me the status of my VM? In fact, I didn't give any name. I didn't even log in. See what is it going to take. Okay, it's randomly I put as message by using one of the extensions. So it is asking me to log in, sign into GitHub using this. So it is asking to Azure to log in. So I will be logging with okay. Just use me this Sujit on web. Yep. So Sujiton Web don't have this, so I'll log in with some other ID. Get me my VM status. So it is always taking that ID because my Azure ID is totally different. Okay, so Azure relogging with the different. In fact, it is. I have to re-log in with that. So let's not take that example as an option. Uh, so when I relog in, the problem is it is going to lost my this GitHub app Copilot access. So just don't want to do that. So let me take some other things like Power Pages. Probably you might heard about it. This is one of the no code low code tool. So how do I create an event portal quickly? It's a random question I'm asking to Power Pages. So now what is happening is it has been this specific extension is being asked and do the prompt whatever I messaged. It's actually doing a wrapping of the prompt saying that, and they're okay. It's asking the Power Platform amendment URL also. So see, basically it is asking how it's going to even help me to do the work also. If I give the real Power Platform environment URL, uh, like make.powerapps.com, it's going to help me all that process end to end. So in fact, our session is not about power apps or power portal, but once if you already have such kind of background behind, if you worked on it, so what you can do is you can even give your power apps portals URL. So it will actually help you to create your entire environment or the event portal using Power Pages. Okay, so step by step options you will be getting for accessing that options also. So we are not going to do that entire action. This is these all are the general extension which is available. So you can see that it is waiting for me to provide this URL. Once we provide the URL, next action will be like it's helping me to step by step to do this work. Okay, so now our point is these are the general um, extensions which are available which you can utilize, and day by day there are a lot of extensions coming in. So our point was, wow, how do I add myself one more extension here, right? So for that, what you need to do, so we are talking about skill set. So what you need to do is basically in your GitHub Copilot, so log into your GitHub Copilot. So github.com, you can actually go to github.com and you can log in whether it's whatever ID you have, and you should have access to your developer settings also. Some organization blocks for you if you are using organization based ID. Otherwise, if it is personal, there is no blockage. You can start using it as you want. Now go to settings. Okay, then developer settings. Here you can create GitHub app. Okay, so it's not very difficult process. Just need to fill out the information what is been asking for you. So you can just quickly fill up the app name, what extension, what all those things. Basically that it's simply asking the uh, so we will consider that option of skill set. So I'll take one item which has been already simply added like that. So let me take this one. So it just created one extension. Okay, and you can see some URL has been given. I'll tell you what is this in through the code. So this is the homepage URL we are considering, and we need a public URL either. By the way, is to set up the skill set for this specific GitHub app. Okay, so I didn't register any domain name. So what I did was, usually you might be knowing that ngrok, one of the component is available. You can utilize that component to make your local environment URL um, publicly available. For example, I have a code here for some random APIs. So this API can be no need to be like your own API. So you can, if some API is already available in your organization, which is been available for your KB article, all those things, you can still utilize that too. And people who did Copilot extensions and connecting to different websites, knowledge base, similar concept only we are using here. So if you have any public API, so now this if you ran this application, and if you wanted to have this application to be exposed, you can use ngrok. Ngrok is one, in fact it is only for testing purpose. You have to use these options, then you can give http and which URL you want to expose. So for example, in localhost, this application is running 8085 port. So I can just simply say that 8085 port need to be exposed. So now this will be available for me uh, in publicly. Like that means you can also access this URL, and uh, as soon as my application is responding, this is, for example, here there's a ping command. Okay, so I just want to see that it will be accessing. So cc ping, when I call ping, it's sent okay to me. So it is simply a simple API. So what it done was it just exposed my API local, which is running on local host, my local machine. It's exposed it and available for me. Now similarly, I have random user, for example, test message. Okay, want not test users, okay, test users. I want to have a test users. So it's giving me some response with some test data. Okay, so it might be your database you are connecting. You can actually, you can write anything on your API, right? That's whether any language, doesn't matter. So it's up to which language you are confident or you are good at. Write APIs, and which will give me the result in JSON format. That's all. So this, if this what I want is, instead of I am using this API directly like this, my intention is, while I am working daily basis on my Visual Studio Code, I want to utilize that API to get the sample data, directly ask here and give me that information. So, okay, that is what we are going to achieve. How do we connect it? So for that, first of all, we need an API. We are planning to do it with skill set now. Skill set, why skill set is taken as an first step is that is the easiest way if you wanted to connect anything, any API very quickly. But if you have a complex scenarios, we will talk about it. If you have a complex scenarios, we have another option called agent. Right. So don't much worry about these things. Basically this is some nothing, it's like APIs. You can have any APIs based on your need, what you want. Now we need to connect these APIs to our GitHub Copilot. So whatever extensions I have generated, that URL I can replace it here. So I'm just putting that URL here, and callback URL just give github.com at this point of time. Now what you need to do is you need to give uh, some feature in Copilot. Okay, so before that, usually it will ask you if you wanted to handle your Copilot using this API or using this skill set or using this app, you need to give permission for something. So what you need to do, give permission for Copilot for your, you need to give your so you are giving read-only access. Let me check this. So Copilot chat, you are supposed to give some read-only access. You are allowing your app to read Copilot chat, or your app you to use Copilot chat. So you need to allow this thing before we are planning to utilize it. Now what do you want to do? Next step is go to Copilot, okay, and select any of this option, skill set agent. So what we are actually trying to do is just try to connect to an API. We are not using entire agent. Agent is a little next layer of extension. Skill set is very simple. You just connect select skill set. Once you select skill set, now your API has to map. So an example, you if you want a new skill, just give any name for that skill and what URL you want to connect. That is what you need to provide. So here you can see I added three sample URLs. You can find out any URL like a joke URL, just for a testing purpose. But a reality in the it has a bigger scope. When you are using in your organization, you can have any kind of API. You can connect to your ticketing system. You can connect to your you create an API to send a message from to your colleague. You can use the Windows Communication Service. Or any there possibilities high because API means just a coding. You can write anything on the code, and if you have that API available, you can actually connect that API to your skill set. So this is basically through natural chat mechanism, you are able to do some kind of integration to other systems too, without disturbing your current model and current day-to-day work, which from and you are working from the same ID. You are not going outside. So in this case, if you wanted a random user, so here we need to provide that URL. So give some name, give some descriptions, up to you, whatever you want to give. Then give that URL, random user, what API you are using for it. Then parameter, this is basically to define when chat is happening. How does it pick this data? So what happened? Yeah. So this object is basically going to this API, and you can read. So from chat, whatever is sending, that goes in an object. And then that is accessing in API. API can use that content and utilize its further processing it. For example, I'm saying that send a message to my colleague, so and so message to my colleague, or get me specific framework or best practice from this document. So it can do that kind of activities. So this is how it is passing objects. Okay, some reason it is going blank. Yeah. Let me put it once again. Okay, so engine update definition. So ideally we are supposed to update all the definition for all things. That's it. If you do this much, I did just for random user. If you do this much, your app basic app structuring is ready. Now what do you need to do? You need to install this app in your organizations. So it can make it available across organization. Others can also use it. um, or you can make it personal for your account ID itself. When I did was I installed only for specific to my need, so it will be available only for my specific need. Okay, so that's why I controlled it. Don't want to give to everybody, and anybody can use it. Basically that is how we need to control. If you wanted to do it only for your organization, you can define it. This will be available only for your organization, and somebody else wanted to install it, you can generate client ID, client secret, all those things. Specifically when we are doing agent apps and all, we are actually doing that. I have some sample for create client ID, client secret, like that also. So this much only. Once we install this app, immediately it will be available for you to use. Now I will tell a bad luck story. Some reason from evening onwards, none of the extensions, custom extension, is working for GitHub Copilot. I'm not sure what happened. I'm looking at whether GitHub Copilot has any downtime or anything happening, and I'm seeing it is totally slow also. So unfortunately, I cannot show that that extension, how it is working directly here or even in the IDE. Apologies for it. Uh, it is not intentional. It's actually it was working till yesterday or today today morning also. Some reason now you can see this extensions are not loading. Not only in the GitHub Copilot chat, also even in IDs also. Um, Earlier this ID specifically this extension also not working, but some reason after last half an hour this extension start working. um, I never faced this problem earlier, so not giving too much explanation for it. But what I'm trying to say that if you follow these specific steps, whatever I mentioned, you will be able to make a custom extension for you for your specific Copilot very quickly. Now, and no, obviously, I could able to show that how the calls are coming to this code also. But unfortunately, I could not do that also. So now what we can do is these extensions once you do even without creating a code API also. So as I mentioned, here you don't even require a specific um, like it can be as simple as simple API. No need to be like you have to write extra prompting, extra nothing like that. A simple API directly connected to skill set. If that is the case, now what about you have a situation like this, um, a complex interaction required, and that whatever custom chat is coming, instead of using GitHub Copilot model itself, you will want to use, as an example, I'm working on it, one code, and suddenly I'm looking for what is the latest in Angular, uh, Angular 19 version or .NET 9 version. What is happening? Probably uh, these models are not trained for it. So I want to do a search, maybe Bing search. So in that case, otherwise I need to use some other model, maybe custom internally I created some SLM so that I want to use that one. Eh, you are not totally depend on GPT-4 or Cloudy or any of these models. Instead, we wanted to utilize some of other model, and we want to do some more custom prompt crafting. Just like Azure, you seen that when Azure or Power Pages, what is happening is it's really going to that environment and doing some actions. If you want to do that kind of custom crafting on your uh, prompt, and if you wanted to manage little bit more state manager, for example, I want to keep my information what I am continuously talking to the system. So a little more than API, you wanted to do a custom small modeling of your extension, then you can use an option called agent, right? So agent is works almost similar way. The difference is you have uh, an option to do a wrapping of prompting, and you can do multiple function calling, and you can even use an LLM models, separate models, and you can use all that into your project and attach that agent project uh, to your Copilot extension. Okay, so difference how we will set up this is when we go to GitHub Copilot. Okay, before that, just want to give one glimpse where we will be using APIs related to skill set related to extension is if you want to really do a quick integration, just which this is just as I mentioned, like suddenly I just want to know, give a sample uh, test cases related to my existing some one of my project, or I want the connection string how I am did in my organization, how it is doing. I'm just asking for, okay, give me connection string for this. So I have some APIs, just like quick informations, not like too much on modeling on top of the existing question which I ask. Specific question, specific need based on my organization's need, I can use the skill set one, uh, and which is very easy to do also. And so it basically, we are focusing only the service core functionality. It is not doing any LLM behind the scene, okay, or any modeling behind the scene, or even custom prompting behind the scene. It's just a API call. You are passing some information, it's doing that work and coming back. So that is in such scenarios, and where we don't want a lot of setup and infrastructure and everything, you can directly select skill set. That is ideal scenario. But other than that, anything which is going out of this, your best option is to choose agent. So when we do agent, um, so similar way, how do we do that extension? What do you need to do? uh, I will select one of the agents which has been created for. So again, coding for agent, it's up to our need. Okay, you can do reading from okay, a PDF file, which is your organizations and their framework, how it is been defined. You have to utilize that as a base also. You can use RAG extensions, maybe RAG you will get a lot of code. How do you make RAG model code? So get a lot of sample code, you can utilize that as your extension. Otherwise, you can utilize functions calling. So let me take one of it. Okay, so the approach is same. You have to give a name. Okay, then this is specifically to install this app, and it's using for that functionality purpose. So give a name, extension, what extension you want to use, any extension you can give, and the URL. Similarly, the application which you build, uh, that has to be exposed, okay, for the agent, use that option. Then in Copilot permission, as I mentioned, you need to definitely give permission for chat accessibility. Select agent, give your authorization URL. See, that means you are making your agent to be authenticated. It's not like anybody can come and use it. It has to be authenticated. So your code should have that authentication process also. Now the URL of your code, do this much, and I can show you some sample code for that agent, function agent. So this is for a skill set. Similarly, so there's an agent code here. What we are doing is basically, we are creating extensions for this. Okay, so you have different methods. For example, in this case, what it is doing is it's creating issues in and listing all the issues what is being available for, um, from my GitHub. If I want to create any extensions and any list of uh, issues which I wanted to use it, I can get the issue title and repository name, on which repository I'm going to create this. So you have different. This is initialization. I can come to that specific list of functions. So if you look at the endpoints, so it is using this endpoints for the chat completion process. So this code, sample code, if you wanted to get this code, you you can actually use GitHub Copilot extension from GitHub. So you will get a sample code for it. I am not in fact showing the real application which we built for our organization because of some security reason. But if you wanted to you get sample to practice, I will share, or you can easily access this GitHub extension. start using this. This will give you how to build the agent code for your application, a- any language. So you can actually refer this. So Copilot extension, you have samples which will use for skill set. You can use options for model extension if you wanted to use, and you have options with RAG extension. So this is the one which you can you use for the PDF handling all those things. It is all been done as a sample for you to showcase, but unfortunately, I am helpless to show that because extensions are somewhat it's not working today. Um, Unlucky for me. So otherwise, this is the mechanism. You can go through each and every from every extensions. You can refer this code to get a starting point. Using this, there are a lot of use cases which we can utilize and add into your extension. APIs, there is some limitation. You can use maximum 5 APIs, but otherwise, agent and all, there is no limitation. You can simply use it as per your need, as per your function extension. So, if in your organization, if you wanted to do a custom uh, GitHub Copilot experience, this is the starting point for you. With that said, let me stop here. Um, and you have you can scan this code if you wanted to be, look for any stacks, winning surveys and all. And of course, we very very thank you for the organizers to having me here. And I hope I can show this end-to-end demo very detailed in one of the other sessions. Um, Probably I need to repeat that. Apologies. But process wise, it is very simple. Um, do everything on a GitHub app, and it will be directly available for your extension. Start utilizing it. And if it is API or agent, there is no limit. You can, it's all code. You can write any kind of extensions, any level of integrations, and all this be just connecting to your GitHub app. And this is available for you. Just use at the rate. Use at the rate, your apps will be coming there. Then you can start asking question, and whatever the information you are passing is directly going as an object to you, to your code. From there you can manipulate anything. That's it
Great,
from thank you very much.
great, Sujit. Wow, that was amazing and a very interesting theme. I bet our viewers will be very happy to review this because it was quite detailed with a great level of detail and quite unique to tell you the truth. The level of customization is amazing and very interesting on what we can achieve with our own extensions and Copilot. Uh, with that, we are closing our day. A big thank you to Sujit for being with us tonight. Hopefully, we will see you in another event of ours. I want to thank you again for being here with us. Have a great night, Sujit. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Nice day having me. Thank you. Yeah.
And with that, Azure AI Connect 2025 for Thursday has come to an end. Thank you everyone for being connected live and watching the stream. But even if you are not live, I know that you are probably watching one of the other streams. If you come into this one, it's very interesting. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to post these questions on YouTube chat. I will take them and communicate with our speakers and do my best to get the answers that you need. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great one. Bye bye, and have a good day, good night, or good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm going to play a small video, and the stream will end for today.